I told him he's a nice guy, but I need a real man to put me in my place. Now he's gone for good. My boyfriend of 3 years has left me, and at first I thought I would feel good about it. I thought that it was better that he was gone. But now I feel so awful and wish I can get him back. Hello, Reddits. My name is Mia, and I'm 26 years old. I'm a waitress, and I never went to college or had any life dreams or purpose of some sort. Ethan, my boyfriend, on the other hand, was a big-shot lawyer known for his brutal winning in courts. He's always in high demand, and he got to pick his choice out of his clients. But despite being known for his winning streaks in the court, his personal life was totally different from his work life. Ethan, especially when he got close to you, allowed almost anything. He wasn't easily offended, and he rarely got angry and had lots of friends because of how friendly he was. Sometimes he had me wondering if he had a twin operating as the lawyer while he was just simply that gentleman who allowed people to push him around. I used to wonder where Ethan got his nature from, especially because of how his parents, and even his younger siblings, were. None of them were kind enough to let anything go past them, especially when someone was trying to cheat their gentle brother and son. They stood up for him and were always ready to attack anyone who tried anything with them, too. His mom would always boast to everyone that if she ended up beating anybody up, her son would defend her and he would win. That had indeed stopped anyone from trying to mess up with Ethan over the years. He had a strong and supportive family who didn't think of his kindness as weakness. But it wasn't the same for me. At first, when I saw Ethan at the restaurant where I worked, I became interested in him. I liked his clean suit and neat appearance. He even had his nails trimmed and neat. I know because I looked when he put his hand around the glass cup to drink the drink he ordered, and I brought to his table. Ethan was clearly interested in me too, because he kept coming back to the shabby restaurant I worked in, just to order a drink and nothing more. I took a lucky guess and thought that he was maybe interested in me and didn't know how and when to approach me, so I took the initiative and I slipped him my number the 4th night of him showing up hoping he would text me, and he had. He texted me that night and we got talking. It was then I got to find out his profession, and when he asked me why I didn't go to college, I told him the truth. The truth was, I didn't want to go. I was never a brilliant child growing up. I was good with my hands, though, but I never was really interested in any skill to sit too long with it. So I decided to just enjoy life while making money, and apparently only very low-paying jobs could fit into my description. Ethan never judged me, and instead said nothing other than it was my choice to make and nobody should force it on me. Our conversations grew longer after that. We found everything and anything there was to talk about. I would chat to him about my day, and perhaps the crazy customer we had, and he would tell me about his busy day at work, and perhaps the funny situation that had happened at work. Ethan was rather meticulous and private, though. He never said anything about his clients because of his vow of keeping clients' information a secret. So even when he'd tell me about his day, he perfectly evaded telling me anything about the legal advice he gave, or what they wanted him to help them sort or represent them in. After a whole month of being friends, Ethan finally asked me out, and I agreed excitedly to be dating someone who was that high up. I bragged about him to anyone who cared to listen. My friends kept fawning over him, wishing they were the ones he chose and not me. I stopped working as a waitress because I chose to, and I started leaving with Ethan, who had no problem with both decisions. I really did feel lucky at first dating such a high-profile guy, but eventually within the years, the respect I had for Ethan just faded into something more like irritation. I was irritated by how gentle he was. He was too kind to a point that was annoying. I didn't like how easily he swept things under the rug so no one got upset, even though the other person was obviously at fault. I began to find it really annoying. Most times I purposely start a fight knowing that he will never attack me or defend himself. He would only apologize until I was no longer angry, and instead of appeasing me over time as it had done in the beginning, it just irritated me further, and I kept inventing new ways to make us fight. I thought he would perhaps toughen up after a while. I wanted to see how long he would hold before pushing back, and I kept pushing and pushing, just until I did that final one, and he finally did push back. Everything happened or started happening 3 months ago when I met him, Alex. Alex was once a client of Ethan who eventually became his friend. His father, however, was Ethan's client and always sought out Ethan whenever he needed advice regarding the law matters on his business. He had apparently been out of town for some years, so I never got to meet him when Ethan and I started dating, and he only showed up about 4 months before Ethan disappeared. At first, there really was nothing to attract Alex to me. He was handsome, yes, but very promiscuous, and he wasn't even as handsome as Ethan is. I know that because he was always telling Ethan about those women whenever he came over. He was always mostly at our place, mostly because he had no job to do. His only work was spending his father's money as the only heir to his father's company. So I guess being a little handsome and having all that money at your disposal made him get any woman he wanted easily. But I really wasn't interested in him at all at first. But eventually, I started wishing that Ethan was just a little like him. He was confident. Way too confident it could be mistaken for arrogance, or maybe it really was arrogance. Aside from the courtroom, Ethan's confidence was as thin as ice. He barely said anything outside, but could listen to you talk and rant all day. It was an admirable feature at first, but became frustrating when it felt like I was the only one in the relationship. Alex was confident, and he never cared if he stepped on people's toes so long he got what he wanted. He wasn't a pushover like Ethan, and I began to wonder how they became friends at all. They were so different, and somehow Alex began to intrigue me. The way he would casually talk about how he had people at his beck and call, and how easily he could get anything he wanted, any woman he wanted. Instead of seeing it as pride, I saw it as an admirable feature of his. I began to wonder what it was like dating someone as rich as him, with all that access to that wealth. Ethan did provide for me and never complained once when I asked him for money, but I never asked for too much in fear that I don't overdo things. I couldn't even get the expensive things I keep wanting for myself because I had no choice, so I wonder what it was like to be one of those women he talked about that he slept with and gave them money he did. And somehow Alex started paying attention to me. It was little at first, almost unnoticeable. But perhaps because I've also been secretly wishing that he did, I noticed it quickly. It was in the way he stared at me lustfully when he thought Ethan and I weren't looking. It was in the way he would tell Ethan how lucky he was to have a woman like me. It was in the way he'd come around the house, even on days he knows that Ethan isn't home, just so he could hang out with me. I noticed it all, and I couldn't help but play hard to get a little. I would smile at him and flirt with him, but only when Ethan wasn't looking. I didn't think anything bad about what I was doing, perhaps because Ethan couldn't catch on, maybe because of how easily we kept straight faces in front of him. I didn't understand then that it was because he trusted us both so much. He didn't think to suspect us. But instead of understanding that fact early, I kept on pushing more. I wore skimpier dresses whenever Alex came around, dresses so tight I could barely walk or sit in them just to get Alex to notice me, and he sure did notice me. He noticed every little movement I made to jiggle my breasts in front of him, or every funny attempt to make him notice my huge bottom behind. We finally went past flirting subtly in front of Ethan to sleeping behind his back. The first time it had happened, I was at home all alone as usual, and Ethan had gone to work earlier than usual that morning. He apparently had a case to prepare for and needed more time to study the materials he had gathered. Alex came by that day, and it seemed like he was really ready for us to take things further. He stepped into the house like he owned it and just walked to the kitchen and pulled out a glass cup, expecting me to pour some wine into it, which I did. After he drank some, he told me that he wanted to have sex with me and that he didn't want Ethan knowing about it and that he was going to pay me whatever amount I wanted. I couldn't believe that I was being propositioned for sex like that. I tried to pretend like I wasn't interested in the offer, but Alex was quite impatient and asked me to make my decision before he took the offer, so I accepted it. I didn't know what sex that was offered to pay for would be like, and I was sort of curious. All my life, I had always had sex with guys without receiving anything from them. Well, except Ethan and then Alex. But Ethan never gave me things as payment for sex. He just wanted them to be evidence of his love for me, and I knew that. So it was really different being with Alex, when I agreed to it. Alex smiled arrogantly like he knew I was definitely going to give in, but I didn't mind all that. In fact, I had no time to think about it at all because he pulled me to himself and kissed me. It was the first time I was kissing another man since I started dating Ethan, and for some reasons it felt really different. Alex wasn't a bad kisser, and I thought he kissed better than Ethan, so I let him continue what he was doing to me. We almost had sex right there in the kitchen, but Alex stopped himself just in time. Yes, I wasn't the one who stopped it. I was too caught up in the moment, and it was only when he stopped that I realized that I was halfway naked already. He told me he didn't want to rush anything, especially since Ethan could come around any time. He told me he'd rather we met at some private place to have sex, and I agreed with him. Alex sent me some money before leaving that day as a sort of parting gift. Perhaps it was some way to remind me of what I was going to be losing if I backed out of the deal. And I didn't. He told me he would text me the location and time he wanted me to come to before he left that day, and that had happened 2 days later. I went to meet Alex, and before we even started the whole thing, he sent me a lot of money that I had never seen or would ever make working as a waitress in my life. I was so happy and was ready to please him. It was then I could understand why ladies kept flocking around him. Even though in bed he was too authoritative and was only after pleasing himself, unlike Ethan, who always made sure I was satisfied before allowing himself the same pleasure. Alex only wanted me to turn this way, stand there, bend over there, do this or do that. He didn't care if you were comfortable with it or not, and he literally paid me to do anything he wanted, and so I did. Arriving home the evening after that afternoon with Alex with the money in my account made all the sourness I felt from Alex's spanking and bending into different positions that weren't exactly enjoyable or convenient and durable. I went shopping the next day, and the feeling of being able to shop without looking at the tag price was amazing. I kept buying and buying stuff, and I enjoyed every bit of my shopping. Arriving at home, I had to tell a different story, though. I met Ethan at home even though I was hoping he wouldn't be back yet so I could put away the bags before he saw them. My plan had been that I would remove the tags on it and dump it so that Ethan didn't have to know, and whenever he saw a new dress on me, I would easily lie that I got some dresses from a cheap stall nearby. But seeing him at home, I had to change my plans and lie instead that a friend decided to go shopping and had begged me to come with. And as a way of making up for me having to spend more than half of the day with her, she had given me those dresses and shoes as gifts. Ethan said nothing, but I could see the question in his eyes. Nobody gave away that many new dresses to someone, but to my relief, he didn't push any further, nor did I try to give any more explanations. After that first night with Alex, he continued to summon me anytime he needed me, and I was always available whenever he did call me. I made myself totally and thoroughly available for him. I didn't mind anything he did to me because the feeling of being able to go out with my friends and spend more money than they did was amazing. Although they all thought that Ethan was the one giving me all that money. They thought it was awesome that lawyers made that much money, and that Ethan was a perfect gentleman who loved me so much to give me that much on each of our outings. I didn't try to change their perspective or tell them anything about the real truth. I let them continue to assume it was Ethan who gave me all that money. It was safer that way. I didn't want them to suspect or know anything about Alex. I wanted that to be my own little secret, one that eventually got out in the most horrible way possible. After a while, the relationship between Alex and I became much more easier. I thought that Alex knew how to handle me, because over time, as we continued our secret relationship, I started to really enjoy the sex. Maybe it was because of the financial benefits that came with it, but I really started to enjoy everything that Alex did to me and the things he made me do. I liked how rough he was, and how wild he was too. He knew exactly how to handle me, and it turned me on greatly. He didn't play nice on the bed like Ethan did, and I liked it for some weird reason. And we knew that what we had wasn't beyond sex too. I thought of it as a win-win situation because I got great sex and money too. I didn't mind anything else or even stop to think about the consequences if Ethan found out. I was just happy to get loads of money, one I didn't have to work hard for like I did when I worked as a waitress. If Ethan noticed the reckless way I spent money on frivolous things, he never complained. He only continued giving the exact amount of money he always did, and since I never disturbed him for extra cash anymore, he didn't send it either. But I thought of that as being annoying. I thought he just literally assumed that it was the money he gave me I was always using, and there was the fact that he thought I maybe didn't need any other money. Even though I got more than enough from Alex, I still wanted him to continue doing it. Call me selfish and greedy, but I just loved it when Ethan gave me money. It sort of reminded me of the fact that he was the one I love and not Alex. There also was the fact that the money Alex gave me was payment for sex, which literally meant that I was a sex worker to him. It was the reason why I never really kept the money but spent it on anything I felt like buying at that moment. Spending all of the money he gave me each time reduced the feeling of being dirty, so I did that every time. And the money that Ethan gave me made me feel loved. He wasn't paying me for anything, so I could easily leave that one lying around in my account. But then nothing bad never lasted because at the end of it all, I still ended up getting caught. After a whole 3 months of sleeping with Alex, Ethan finally caught us, and it was just really terrible. Remembering that day makes me feel really awful. I was pissed when Ethan did what he did to me before he left. I thought that I could survive without him, and I'm barely a week in, and I'm missing him this terribly. Ethan found out about my affair with Alex through the conversation between Alex and I. Alex had texted me that day, as usual, reminding me of our meeting in 6 hours, and then he wrote there that he had sent me money and that I should check if it was enough. I didn't see the text at first. I was too careless dropping my phone carelessly around the room, forgetting that Ethan was there and that he knew my password. He never touched my phone before, even though he had always known the password, so it made me really thoughtless, and I remember leaving the phone on the bed beside Ethan while I took a shower. The phone must have beeped, but I couldn't hear because of the noise from the water in the shower. And by the time I was done, Ethan was still on his laptop with my phone exactly where I left it on the bed. It didn't look like he had touched it, and his facial expression was still the same. When I read the message, I quickly deleted the text after committing the address to memory and reminded Ethan that I had to go out with the girls, and he just simply nodded and even kissed me goodbye when I was about to leave. I made my way to meet Alex without knowing I was being tailed by Alex. He had followed me with his car, and I didn't know. I was only focused on meeting Alex so much that I didn't even notice when he entered the hotel after me and followed me up to the room that Alex was in. Alex wasted no time in getting started. He ordered me to pull off my dress, and I did obediently like a schoolgirl getting ready for punishment. Alex was still trying to pull off his trousers when we heard a knock, and it was room service. Alex said he didn't order anything, but when the person at the door wouldn't stop knocking, I put on Alex's shirt that was lying on the floor and went to the door. I couldn't wear my dress again because I'd have to struggle with the zippers, and I didn't have the patience to. But to my greatest surprise and shock, the supposed room service was Ethan. I couldn't say anything as he forced himself in and stared at Alex, who quickly adjusted himself and had the guts to look guilty. Ethan, without a word to either of us, just left like that. He didn't stop when I ran after him in Alex's shirt, only to realize halfway that I wore only a shirt and panty. I went back into the room and quickly wore my dress before running after Ethan again, and he had already left the hotel in his car. I hailed a cab and got in. Alex said nothing as he watched me dress up. He only picked up his wine glass and strolled to the window while staring at me panicking. I didn't care about him at that moment, though. I was desperate to get home to Ethan. I was desperate to get the chance to explain things to Ethan. I kept crying and panicking in the cab and was overwhelmed with nerves when I got down from the cab right in front of Ethan's house. When I finally gathered the strength to go in, Ethan was angrily smashing all the pictures we took together. He was smashing the wardrobe that had my clothes in them, and he was so angry. When he saw me, he attacked me instantly, not physically, but with words. He was saying very cruel things to me. I knew I deserved everything he was saying, but I was really hurt that Ethan, of all people whom I thought understood me perfectly, more than anybody else, was standing there and was just judging me without hearing me out. I became angry, so angry that he was blaming me completely, and I just lost it, especially when he called me a sex worker who was going around sleeping with other men, and when he added that I was a greedy person who clearly wasn't satisfied with what I had. I just flipped and I just started saying really stupid things. I wanted to hurt him like he was doing to me, so I started to tell him that he must have thought himself too special to be cheated on. I told him that he wasn't even half the guy I have always wanted, and I was only managing him, but that I was done doing that. I told him he couldn't even handle me and he probably himself too good to ever lose anything. I also added that even though he was a nice guy, I needed a real man who could put me in my place, and that was why I cheated on him with someone who could. Ethan just looked at me in shock while I ranted, and then after I was done, he just went into the room and locked himself in and didn't come out until the next morning without saying a word to me. I tried to get him to open the door, but he just stayed in and said nothing. The next morning, Ethan didn't exactly come out because the room was wide open when I went there to apologize for what I said, hoping he would be calm by morning. It was then I started panicking. Ethan never left doors opened. He hated it when you open a door and cannot do the courtesy of closing them. I checked inside the room to find half of Ethan's clothes gone. I ran downstairs hoping to still catch him in the garage with his car, but even that was gone. I tried calling Ethan, but the call kept disconnecting. I couldn't reach him and I was really scared. But when 2 days passed and Ethan still wouldn't come home or unblock me, I started to feel angry. I thought of him as childish for walking away when we could have easily sorted things out. I managed to convince myself that he was the one who made me say those things because of the harsh way he was addressing me. I even angrily moved my things out of his apartment and rented out a smaller one to stay. I felt that if he wanted to remain petty, I would become petty too, but that was probably another one of my worst mistakes. But a week passed and still nothing from Ethan. Ethan, who couldn't even stand a fight for a full day, was ignoring me for a week. I started to feel somehow. I tried reaching him again and again, but still no answer or anything at all from him. I used someone's number to reach out to him, and it rang, and when he picked it up and realized it was me who was speaking, he ended the call and then blocked that number too. I went back to his house to see whether he was back home, but he wasn't, and the weird thing was that I couldn't access the house. I had the key I used all the time over the years. We never changed the keys. Ethan kept plenty of spares, and whenever I lost mine, he was giving me a new spare. And at that moment, I had about 2 spares with me, but when I tried both countless times, both weren't working. The door wouldn't even bulge. I realized in horror that I shot myself in the foot by packing out of the house. Ethan had somehow known that fact and had gotten someone down there or himself to change the keys. I didn't know what else to do, so I tried reaching out to his friends and family. But reaching out to them was the worst mistake I made. They had no clue where he was, although they told me they've seen him countless times over the week, and he said nothing about our fight. I had to eventually tell them the truth about what happened because they kept insisting they had to know if they were going to help me. And when they finally found out the truth, instead of helping me like they promised from the beginning, his friends looked at me in disgust and swore that they will never call him and beg him on my behalf. His family was the worst. They threw me out of the house, but not without parting insults and extra disgrace. I couldn't help but feel so devastated. I even called my parents, thinking they were my parents and would perhaps, no matter how angry they were, try to help me out. But I got the same response from them. In fact, my dad told me not to bother coming home because he would publicly disgrace me in front of the whole town, so I couldn't go home for fear of being embarrassed by my parents. But even though I didn't go home, I still ended up becoming a public disgrace. By the end of the 2nd week after Ethan left, everybody had known the exact thing that I did, and they all were avoiding me like a plague. Walking on the street is now so difficult because of people staring at me and whispering. Apparently, nobody was ready to conceal my truth, and they kept telling anyone who would tell another person until everyone was aware that I was a lying, cheating woman who is also greedy. My social life also suffered a great loss. All my friends were suddenly too busy to come see me. They barely even called me, and when I did call them, needing someone to talk to or someone to comfort me, they either ended the call immediately, they knew it's me, or they didn't even pick up at all. The stigmatization is just totally awful, and I feel so lonely. Alex, who is the main cause of this, has not texted or called me since that day at the hotel. He doesn't even care. Last I heard, he traveled to a different state again. He left me alone to bear the consequences of our actions. I just don't know what to do, honestly. I miss Ethan so much, and I regret everything. The money is so worthless now, and I wish I had held on to my relationship instead of hopping on the next big thing. I regret my actions, and I wish I could go back in time. Not being able to talk to or reach out to Ethan is painful, and I wish desperately right now that I could. Update. Hello, Reddits. It's been a while. This is my 2nd post here, and possibly the last one, too. I've become too swamped up with emotions lately. It's almost difficult understanding who I am underneath them. Those emotions of sadness, desperation, squashed hope, pain, and regrets are all swamping me so much I can barely breathe properly anymore. Whoever said it got better with time was probably lying because nothing is getting better. I'm still here stuck in this painful part of my life with no means of escape. And even though I keep wishing I have some sort of escape, so far there's been nothing. And honestly, I don't think there ever will be one. It's so draining having to live like this with absolutely no one on your side. Not even the people you came online desperately seeking their support or comfort, even if it wouldn't do much. To be honest, I expected some judgment. I know I did the most terrible thing on earth sleeping with my boyfriend's friend, but I came here hoping that somebody would say the right words. I came here hoping that someone out there would blame me for the things I did, but still realize that I regret everything and offer some comfort or right advice. But I was wrong, totally and absolutely wrong. Nobody understands me, not here and certainly not in my life. I wish I could change back the hands of time. I really wish I could undo my thoughts for coming here, or perhaps go further back in time, to that day Alex had shown up with his silly preposition. I should have understood then that he wasn't a real man. Manly men didn't go about paying women for sex as he did. It means he loses confidence in himself to get a woman properly the right way and get her to love him. At the end of the day, they all end up leaving after getting their share of his wealth. Well, the wealth is not even his anymore because his father had apparently come out in public with a new heir, the sibling that he thought he never had, the exact knowledge that had always given him license to misbehave. His father apparently had an affair way before he was born and gave birth to a daughter, but his own father somehow was able to interfere, and the mother disappeared with the child. He had been looking for years, and with the help of his lawyer Ethan, who never said anything to Alex about it, he had been able to find her, and she apparently was some businesswoman herself, and proved herself worthy of being to handle the company. So the father had announced the news, publicly disowning Alex in the same breath. His own legal wife had cheated, and that resulted in Alex and he had apparently known for years, but because he had no biological heir, he stuck with him until he found her. Now Alex has nothing. With no money to back him up, he was nothing, absolutely nothing. I don't rejoice over the demise of his wealth, and I don't feel sorry for him either. I just regret getting involved with someone like that. Someone who clearly was literally a bastard. Someone who is not only a bastard, but also a coward who doesn't even care anything about me. He didn't even care to contact me after that, and I'm glad he's also suffering as I am, even though we have different consequences we're suffering from. I still wish that I could turn back the hands of time. I wish that I could undo the trash I spat out of my mouth that day, 6 weeks ago. My life has been a roller coaster of pain since then, and honestly, I don't know how to go about anything. My parents are still ignoring me, and so are my friends. I'm back to where I started, walking as a waitress. Isn't what they called falling from grace to grass? The owner of the restaurant accepted me back because she was apparently in need of staff, but I knew she was judging me too. From the way she would stare at me when she thought I wasn't looking, the way she purses her lips in disgust any time someone recognizes me and proceeds to entirely embarrass me by asking if I have heard anything from Ethan. Even though I tried to avoid answering that question, I truly do not know where he is up until now. He totally just vanished from my life and is refusing to come back. There's still no way of reaching him. I know because I've tried several times until I realized that Ethan didn't want to be found. At least not by me. He stayed away completely, and I can't help but wonder all the time what he's doing. I know I caused everything, and that I will never get a chance to redo anything, but I wish there was some way or any way at all to just fix things. Knowing that I will continue to remain like this just hurts really badly. Knowing that Ethan will continue to hate me, and will never forgive me, just makes me feel horrible each waking moment of mine. Every day feels like a different invented form of torture, and I feel desperate to get out. Knowing that Ethan would definitely move on with someone else feels awful. She will probably be an opposite version of me, someone who will never take advantage of him or his kindness, someone who would choose to love him and not cheat on him like I had, someone who would probably get the chance to marry Ethan like I never will. It's sad how I've just ended up losing the one person who loved me more than I could have ever loved myself. And for that, I don't think I could ever forgive myself. Goodbye, guys.